You believe the Borg, entities that consume and assimilate entire species, will find any value or use in this disarray?
Q chuckled, nodding.
Indeed. I suspect they'll find it quite the challenge. However, I've seen them convert some of the most irritating creatures into perfectly acceptable paperweights. Though I do know there is a chance they will fail either way, I'm sure to have a good time.
However, do you really feel like turning him into a Borg drone is the best way to help him?
Best way? It depends on how one looks at the situation, I suppose. Indeed, I could simply give him the things he needs to succeed. A normal body, perhaps some muscle tone and hair, and top it off with an actual brain. But if I did that for him, I'd need to help every degenerate group of genetic garbage. I'm not in that business.
It seems uncertain that even the Borg could bring order to this chaos. As I understand it, any attacks they face, they adapt to. Having had more than a glimpse in there, the only possible adaptation is becoming even more disturbed. I must admit, my curiosity is piqued.
Besides, can you imagine the possibilities of introducing that into a perfectly organized hive mind? Wouldn't it be hilarious if Borg started greeting beings they intended to consume with "I are Borgrax Vitch"?
I cannot. Being a Vulcan, I do not find humor in anything.
Yes, I know that. I was breaking the fourth wall.
He lifted his hand, preparing to transport Cyraxx away. But before he could snap his fingers, a familiar, growling voice cut through the air. Randy Savage appeared in a flash, arms crossed, staring Cyraxx down with a look of pure contempt.
You just blew your best chance, Cyraxx. You better hope the fucking Borg can fix your shit, boy.
He barked, his voice booming with intensity.
I know you're gonna screw the pooch, Raxxo. See you later, boy.
Cyraxx flinched, his eyes darting nervously between Randy, Q, and the Vulcan. He could feel the weight of their disdain pressing down on him. Each one a towering figure ready to unleash something far worse than he'd ever faced. The Vulcan gave a small, uncertain nod toward Q. Q grinned, clearly delighted by the Vulcan's apprehension.
Besides, if the Borg can't help, I have one more, less desirable option, and if that fails, old Macho Man here is my sure bet.
With a mocking wink, Q snapped his fingers. As Cyraxx vanished in a flash of light, Randy turned to the Vulcan, his intense expression softening ever so slightly.
Credit where it's due,
He said, nodding with respect.
Just want to say it took a shitload of guts to go into that freak's mind, man. Major respect.
The Vulcan, still regaining his composure, inclined his head in acknowledgement.
Thank you, Macho Man. And I too admire your fortitude in the quest to correct that horrible mind. I need to meditate or something.
Randy chuckled. With a final nod between them, Randy vanished, leaving the Vulcan alone in the quiet heat of the Vulcan desert, still pondering the sheer disorder he'd encountered in Cyraxx's mind. Meanwhile, in a much colder, darker part of the galaxy, Cyraxx materialized in the heart of a vast, eerie room, the Borg Queen's throne room. The space was dark and metallic, the walls alive with shifting, pulsating lights that reflected the movements of a massive collective consciousness. Q stood beside Cyraxx, looking around with a satisfied grin.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Those are the words that describe the situation being faced by almost any sentient being in the galaxy standing right here. There are some who can resist what's about to happen, and my bet is you're one of them. Try to remember, if you are, then you lose. Strike two, as they say.
Hoda. You mean if I win, I lose?
Yes. If you break the Borg like you broke that poor son of a bitch back on Vulcan, you lose. Get it?
So, no matter what I lose, this is bullshit. What makes you think you get to play these games with me?
No. If the Borg fix you, then you win. And as far as rights go, let me put it in a way I know you will understand. I'm on God mode, Vitch. Literally.
Cyraxx stared around, visibly unnerved by the shadowy, metallic space, the low hum of voices and mechanical sounds filling the room. His mouth hung open, the usual defiance missing as he tried to process his strange surroundings. At the far end of the room, emerging from the darkness with an unsettling grace, was the Borg Queen herself. Her gaze fixed on Cyraxx, and for a brief moment, even she seemed to hesitate, as if already sensing the chaos brewing inside him. Q inclined his head toward her with a smirk.
Salutations, first of trillions. May I present you with a most unique challenge, Cyraxx. Oh, I know he doesn't look like much, but don't judge this book by what's on the cover. If you can tame the chaos and madness within, you will truly be the ultimate mind in the galaxy, maybe even the universe.
The Queen's eyes glinted with interest, a faint, almost mocking smile curving her lips. She advanced toward Cyraxx, her presence overwhelming, yet somehow coolly detached.
Order,
She echoed, her voice resonating with the hum of the collective.
is our purpose.
She studied Cyraxx, her gaze narrowing.
Indeed, we see there is much disorder in this one, quite unlike anything we have ever encountered before.
She paused as if considering whether he was even worth the attempt. Cyraxx, his voice quivering, finally managed to speak.
Look, I don't need no Tigger-loving broad in a robot suit trying to fix me.
Q laughed softly, stepping back and watching with delight as the Borg Queen prepared to confront the hurricane of madness that was Cyraxx's mind.
Oh, come now, Raxxo. Improvement is inevitable.
The Queen extended her hand, her eyes glinting coldly.
You will be assimilated.
She said, her voice filled with a chilling certainty. The Borg Queen moved closer, her hand reaching out, fingers brushing Cyraxx's forehead. A series of sleek metallic tendrils extended from her arm, gliding over Cyraxx's head as her consciousness began to penetrate his mind. But almost immediately, something went wrong. The Queen's expression twisted in surprise as the Borg's typically seamless process of assimilation encountered something bizarre. Cyraxx's mind, with its jumbled mess of delusion, misplaced arrogance, and an endless cycle of petty grievances, flooded the connection. Memories of his nonsensical victories over his trolls, his paranoid fantasies of fame, and the strange broken logic that governed his worldview all spilled forth in a chaotic torrent. Inside the collective, Borg drones across countless starships faltered, each one suddenly experiencing flashes of Cyraxx's tangled thoughts and emotions. Whispers of trolls, haters, and garbled phrases like intellectual property and legend status invaded the minds of each drone, creating a storm of nonsensical concepts that disrupted the hive's relentless, synchronized flow. The Queen staggered, momentarily losing control, her usual composure shaken as she was assaulted by disjointed images of Cyraxx's life, his furious monologues against imaginary enemies, his defiant yet baffling insistence on his own genius, and his erratic memories of stolen music and art he believed to be masterpieces. The chaotic noise of his mind clashed violently with the strict order of the Borg, creating an impossible dissonance.
What is this?
She whispered, her voice tinged with a rare, unmistakable tone of horror. Throughout the collective, the normally synchronized voices became a cacophony of confusion. The drone's usual, "We are Borg," replaced with erratic phrases from Cyraxx's fractured vocabulary. Across the galaxy, Borg ships wobbled in flight, veering off course as Cyraxx's chaotic mind invaded the network like a virus. In moments, the entire Borg collective was flooded with his delusional mantras. "I'm a legend. Y'all just jealous, don't know real talent when you see it. Intellectual property. You're stealing my intellectual property. Trolls. All of you trolls." The Queen's face twisted in desperation, struggling to regain control as Cyraxx's chaos tore through the hive mind like a wildfire. She released her grip on him, her tendrils retracting in haste, and took a step back, visibly shaken. Q, now laughing uncontrollably, clapped his hands in delight.
Oh, this is rich. The entire Borg collective brought to its knees by one rage-filled simpleton with delusions of grandeur. To think, if only other races had had their own versions of Raxxo, you would have been stopped in your tracks.
The Queen glared at Q, her calm exterior crumbling.
You have infected us with madness, filth, delusion. It is a blight of discord, a cacophony of trust me when I say. We cannot withstand this blizzard of icy hot madness.
She looked at Cyraxx with something close to fear. Cyraxx, oblivious to the havoc he'd unleashed, smirked with misplaced confidence, puffing up his chest.
Ha ha ha! Y'all thought you could handle me. I'm next level bitch. Nobody holding me back.
Q wiped a tear of laughter from his eye, thoroughly entertained.
So tell me, Your Highness, have you ever danced with the devil by the pale moonlight? Because if not, you have now, ha 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 ha.
The queen, looking visibly drained, shot Q a murderous glare, then spoke, her voice taut with fury.
That's what you think, not what you know. Now please take this thing away from us. We cannot tolerate the unbridled maelstrom of madness within.
Q, still chuckling, nodded.
Oh, certainly. Well, Cyraxx, it looks like I was right about you.
With a snap of his fingers, Q transported them away, leaving the shaken Borg queen to wrestle with the lingering traces of Cyraxx's chaos in her collective. As they reappeared on the barren sands of Vulcan, Q turned to Cyraxx with a grin.
Well, Raxxo, when you fail, you really fail, don't you? Once again, I have to say, the fact that you actively boasted about your failure to be fixed is most amusing. I have never seen someone so happy to lose. It would almost be endearing. Almost.
Q's amusement faded, his grin slipping into something far darker as he turned toward Cyraxx.
Strike two. You know, I do believe you're going to end up in the ring with Macho Man.
Cyraxx shifted uneasily, sensing the shift in Q's tone, but unable to find the words to protest. His usual bluster had been smothered by the sheer strangeness of his journey so far. He looked up at Q, searching for any sign of the mocking humor that had colored their earlier exchanges, but found only a steely, almost cruel intensity.
There is one last glimmer of hope for you, though,
Q continued, his gaze piercing.
Sadly, depending on how one looks at the situation, it's a glimmer in the dark. A place where even I must tread carefully. The Q continuum. You see, Cyraxx, I am not the only Q. There are quite a few of us. The universe is a big place.
He paused, savoring the fear flickering across Cyraxx's face.
Maybe, just maybe, one of my colleagues can help you improve in the tiniest modicum. I'm not counting on it, and neither should you.
Without another word, Q snapped his fingers, and in an instant, the hot sands of Vulcan vanished, replaced by an eerie, surreal landscape.